I'm Andy with Competitive Cyclist, and this is the Wahoo Element cycling computer. If you've been riding as long as I have, you probably have not so fond memories of early cycling computers. They were small, displayed very little data, they were difficult to read, and even harder to set up. And then, a certain GPS company ushered in a revolution in how we tracked and recorded our rides. And I was a fan. I used mine on every bike and on just about every ride for about 7 years, and until recently, it always gave me exactly what I wanted. But in the past year or so, another sea change has occurred, and it's called Strava. And as hard as I tried to stay away from it, once I downloaded the app and started tracking my rides, the little bike racer inside me couldn't stop obsessing. And that's where that first generation GPS device started to fall short. So I started looking at other options. And as luck would have it, that's when the guys at Wahoo sent me an Element. Now, if you haven't heard of Wahoo yet, here's the scoop. Wahoo was founded by an engineer who discovered he couldn't easily bring together, view, and analyze all the data from his training devices. This happened right around the time the first iPhone came out, so he wrote an app and invented the ANT Plus key to pull all the data into the computer in the palm of his hand. But he wanted to take it a step further and do the same thing with a cycling computer. So Wahoo released the first generation of that idea, the Reflect, in 2012. And after 3 years of constant updating and iterating and a ton of input from Team Sky, the Element emerged. The design goals of the Element were simple. Create a user-friendly cycling computer that aggregates input from just about any Bluetooth device and gives the user control of everything via a smartphone app. And they nailed it. The free Element app makes the initial setup and pairing process about as easy as sending a text message. And once you're ready, you can manage and create pages, tweak the data fields on those pages, pair your devices, and even automatically upload your rides to Strava, which means you don't have to run the Strava app in tandem and burn up your phone's battery. And while we're on the subject of Strava, a few weeks after I got my Element, Wahoo upgraded the firmware to show live segments, and even segments within segments. Now, if you've never used these before, let me tell you, it's incredibly addictive. And Wahoo makes it easy to sync your favorite segments with the Element. Just hop on your home Wi-Fi network, open the Strava app, pick your segments, and tap the star displayed on the map. Then, scroll to the segment screen on your Element and hit sync. Boom, done. Let the pain ensue, because trust me, when that live segment timer pops up and starts ticking right next to your PR, you're gonna go for it no matter how tired you are. And if you hit the Versus button at the bottom to see the KOM, you're gonna pedal even harder, especially when the final push mode kicks in about 500 feet from the end of the segment. And while we're on the subject of buttons, I really like the way 5 of the 6 buttons are at the bottom of the unit. And here's why. First, the zoom feature lets me keep just about everything I wanna see on one screen and access it in 1 or 2 taps. And second, when I'm deep in the middle of chasing a PR or KOM, the ergonomics of pushing down on a button with my thumb are about 100 times easier than letting go of the bars to squeeze a side button. And you wouldn't think it at first, but the little raised nubs on the bottom buttons are, for me, a surprising highlight of the Elemnt user experience. They give you that extra layer of grip that you need when you're on the rivet or riding with full-fingered gloves. There's a lot more you can do with the Element, and honestly, I feel like I barely scratched the surface. I used it to control resistance and upload routes with the Kicker trainer, which was awesome. But you can also read data from muscle oxygen sensors or enable real-time mapping of your buddies to see who's running late or how far ahead of you they are on the climb. You can do turn-by-turn navigation, and there's even a gear indicator for SRAM ETAP and Di2. Oh, and last but not least, you can receive text messages and email notifications. Now, let's pause and talk about that one for a second, because at first, I was skeptical about using it. In my head, it was like texting and driving, which is a huge faux pas, but I turned it on anyway and enabled both work and personal emails to hit the screen, along with text messages. And I'm not ever going to turn it off. For one, it lets me set my phone to Do Not Disturb mode, which preserves the battery big time. Because of that, it puts only the most important stuff, emails and texts, right in front of me. No more reaching in my pocket and looking at my phone every time it buzzes or chirps. I just look down at the Element for a half second, evaluate the message, and mash the center button to dismiss the notification. unless it's the boss or my wife, and then I can choose to stop and respond, or, well, you get the idea. I've loved using the Element. I was long overdue for an upgrade, and honestly, I feel like I've gone from a flip phone to an iPhone. I know that's an overused analogy, but it's the closest comparison I can think of that makes sense of the massive overhaul in technology and user experience that Wahoo has accomplished here. They've made a bike computer that's easy to use and a delight to own, especially if you have a low threshold for painful technology experiences. In addition to being compatible with just about every Bluetooth and ANT Plus device in the world, Wahoo offers a small ecosystem of very well-designed accessories to go with your Element, along with the Kicker series of stationary trainers. If you have questions about how you can become a Wahoo-ligan, please give us a call or send an email to sales@competitivecyclist.com.